All right, going to be explaining a little bit about British or Irish neutrality in World War II. But in order to truly understand that, we need to first kind of look back at the history between Ireland and particularly the United Kingdom. So we have these islands right through here, going back way back to the not the 1800s, excuse me, to about 900 years ago. Okay, we have the British right through here start moving into Ireland and colonizing Ireland. This is really their first colony. They're going to come in primarily right over here in an area called the Pale, which is current day Dublin, and they're going to move throughout this area. Predominantly up through here. Eastern Ireland is going to be the one they're going to control the most of, and then Southern Ireland right down here. The west coast of Ireland is going to be not as occupied by the British for a number of factors, but those are beyond the point. So getting right through here, we're going to get then 1798. There's a massive uprising in Ireland against British rule. Very violent. Ultimately, the British will crush that, but then we're going to get the Act of Union coming in shortly after that. Now, the Act of Union is going to unify Ireland instead of making it just a separate colony of Britain. It's now going to bring it in as part of the United Kingdom. So no longer is it a United Kingdom of Wales, Scotland, and England. It is now going to be the United Kingdom of Britain, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. So Ireland is officially brought into the kingdom. This is going to consistently keep going on. Okay, these tensions are going to keep rising. We're going to get an uprising after the famine, or during the famine in 1848. Not a very successful one, but led by a guy who ends up in Montana, so I like him. Okay, right through there. This is going to consistently keep happening. Then we're going to get a series of movements called the Home Rule movements. Home Rule bills coming in the late 1880s, 1870s, and then officially being passed in, I believe, in 1912, but not enacted until 1914. Introduced in 1912, enacted in 1914. What Home Rule is stating is that Ireland right here would remain a part of the United Kingdom. However, it's going to pretty much have its own government and be able to do its own things. It's still going to be responding to the King of the United Kingdom. It's still the official head of state. However, Ireland can kind of do its own thing with the situation. So one of the things to understand about Ireland and Britain particularly is the importance of religion when it comes to talking about the nationalist and the unionist. So a nationalist is someone who wants Ireland right over here, unified independently from Great Britain and the United Kingdom. A unionist wants to stay a part of the United Kingdom as part of the union of these kingdoms. Okay, same root word right through there. Now, England, we do know back from the Protestant Reformation, is going to be deeply Protestant. Okay, with the Church of England. Ireland is deeply Catholic. So there's going to become a kind of connection here between Protestants and between Catholic, or between Protestants kind of aligning with the United Kingdom and being unionist, and Catholics aligning with the nationalist movement, supporting a free Ireland independent of Great Britain. Unionist and Protestants, predominantly are opposed to this idea of home rule. Catholics and nationalists are going to be predominantly in favor of the idea of home rule. This is going to cause a bunch of tensions happening. You're going to get militia groups happening. The Ulster Volunteers. Okay, Ireland's broken up into 4 different provinces. Up here in the north, we have the province of Ulster. We're going to get the Ulster Volunteers, who are devoted, and they're basically a paramilitary organization founded in, I believe, 1912 or 1914, with the express purpose of stopping home rule from happening. Then we're going to get the Irish Volunteers, founded in Dublin, with the express purpose of protecting the belief of home rule. This is going to cause a bunch of tension. We get the Easter Rising in 1916, a rebellion against the United Kingdom. It is ultimately a failure. However, it does galvanize support, particularly because of the way the British responded very violently. It galvanizes support in Ireland for home rule and for independence. But that is not going to really transpire the same up in the north, again, the predominantly unionist Protestant areas. If you look at the election of 1918, which you can see here on the screen, Sinn Féin, which is going to be the party in dark green right here, they're devoutly nationalistic. They want an independent Ireland away from the United Kingdom. They do not want to be they want home rule. Okay, they really, really want their own home rule. There's going to be factors within them that are supporting complete independence, factors that are saying we're going to be a part of the United Kingdom still. But if you look right here, during this election, Sinn Féin wins the vast majority of seats, with the exception of in Ulster. Okay, if you look up in the north, so if you compare this map to the one I just had, and I'll be putting up in a second, of the current day borders with Northern Ireland, you're going to see a lot of parallels right through here. This is important because it's going to be showing exactly where the support for unionism is in Ireland, who wants to be united with Britain, and who does not want to be united within Britain. So again, if you look at this map right here, and then compare it to this map right here, particularly when looking up at Northern Ireland, the boundaries are very, very similar, and this is going to be done for a very, very important reason. Now, we're going to get the Irish Revolution happening in the late 19 teens and early 1920. In 1921, there is going to be a treaty officially signed, which stops that revolution and gives Ireland home rule. It's also going to devote, initially the treaty's plans were to have two separate Irelands, a Northern Ireland and a Southern Ireland. Okay, so we're looking at Korea. We have a North Korea and a South Korea. The original idea was to have a Northern Ireland and then have a Southern Ireland as well. That is ultimately not going to happen. This was a temporary plan that has been still around for today. Southern Ireland is going to become a part its own country. Northern Ireland, again, if you're looking at the map, predominantly Unionist, predominantly Protestant, is going to become a part of the United Kingdom. At this time, we get the Irish Free State, and Ireland goes into a civil war down below. But at this point, it is granted home rule, so it's kind of an autonomous territory. They can do really what they want. However, they are still unified with the king over in London. They also still swear an oath of allegiance to the king in London. It is important to note, though, that there is going to be a break within Sinn Féin. So the political party that won a lot of seats in the 1918 election is going to have a split. Those who are in favor of this treaty of creating an independent free rule, home rule in the south, and Northern Ireland being unified without home rule in Britain, and those who are opposed to that treaty. So we're going to have this split going on. Eamon de Valera is going to be the president. At a later point, he's going to be kind of the leader of the anti-treaty Sinn Féin movement. Will go to jail for a while, but ultimately is going to be released. And he's going to come to power in the early 1930s. Goes about and redoes the Constitution in, I believe, 1936. When he redoes the Constitution in 1936, he removes the oath of allegiance, so no longer are members of Ireland's parliament. The Dáil, no longer are they swearing allegiance to the king in England, and it's really going to remove Ireland from the United Kingdom officially. So at this point, the Republic of Ireland, originally South Ireland as it was called, or planned to be called, is no longer a part of the kingdom. However, this treaty from 1921, establishing a Southern Ireland and Northern Ireland, largely along Unionist and nationalist lines, is still in place in the north. So the north, right through here, is still a part of the United Kingdom, whereas the rest of Ireland, just simply labeled Ireland on this map, is not. Now, adding to this tension, we're going to get in 1939, Hitler over here in Germany is going to invade Poland. Hitler and the Germans at this time controlled Germany. The boundaries were a little bit different at this time, but they've got Germany, they've got Austria, they've also got Czechoslovakia, which at this point was one independent country. They invade Poland. When they invade Poland, this is going to bring the French and the British into the conflict, because the French and British have stated, if you invade Poland, you will start a war with us. Now, Germany is at war with Poland. It's also at war with France and the United Kingdom. This is particularly important, though, when we're looking up at Ireland and Northern Ireland, because Northern Ireland is a part of the United Kingdom. So when Britain declares war, Northern Ireland is also declaring war. This is problematic when you're looking at the rest of the Irish border and the rest of Ireland, because they're not declaring war. However, the rest of Ireland is. Now, this is going to be problematic as the war is going to progress. because the Germans will invade Luxembourg, Netherlands, and Belgium into France, okay, and take over France. They're going to also try to do their bombing campaign into London and the rest of the United Kingdom. Now, the Germans do have naval superiority initially, meaning it's very hard for the British to get any supplies in. If the British are going to be getting supplies, France and the rest of Europe is cut off from them. So their supplies that they're getting are coming in from Canada, which is a part of the Commonwealth at that time, or the United States across this ocean. There are a number of instances of attacks by German ships on these supply ships coming over across the Atlantic. It's dangerous. It's problematic. We also, there are plans if they could use Ireland as a port, because it would make it safer for these ships coming across to protect the British. Now, the United Kingdom really is also in danger, from the east at this point, from Europe. However, if the Germans were to come into Ireland, they could easily surround the United Kingdom use Ireland as a staging ground, and that is something that would be gravely concerning to the United Kingdom at this time. Now, if we're looking back, again, remember Ireland, if we look at the 1918 election, there was a large group of people in Ireland who were opposed to being a part of the United Kingdom. The 1936 Constitution officially removes that, and Ireland is now independent. The history between the Irish and the British is not positive. There a large number of individuals in the United Kingdom kind of looked at Ireland as this backwards, far off, kind of screwed up, weird place of outsiders and foreigners that are just different and poor and deserve to be that way because they're inferior. It's kind of similar to what you talk about with the white man's burden when we talk about like the race for Africa. Granted, it's a little bit different because Ireland is officially a part of the kingdom, or was a part of the United Kingdom, but they did not view the Irish on the same level as they viewed the British. So you've got this really large amount of tension between the Irish people and the British. They don't trust the British. You've had a large series of conflict going on at this time as well, and historically speaking, again, remember the potato famine, which the British could have intervened and really didn't, as much as they could have potentially. Again, there's a lot of layers to that as well. This is a massive oversimplification, but there are issues going on through there, which is, again, within living memory. You've got the living memory just 20 years prior of the massive response to the Easter Rising and the public execution, brutal execution of those who were a part of the conflict and the revolution. A lot of people in Ireland don't want to join. They don't really support or trust the British, and they want to stay out of the conflict. They just don't trust the British, and that's going to be kind of one of the big reasons through here. Also, when it comes to social policies, Eamon de Valera, who's the leader of Ireland, has a number of very conservative social policies. He wrote in the Catholic Church as a special place in the Irish Constitution. There's heavy levels of censorship going on in Ireland. Things that are not devotedly traditional family value is not really written into Ireland at all. For example, like kind of starting about the preferred place of the woman would be within the home. Similar ideas are being portrayed by Hitler in Germany, particularly on some of the social issues. So you can look at that. Eamon de Valera was not necessarily pro-Nazi. He certainly was not pro-Nazi. He did issue a condolences to the German people after Hitler's death, one of the only countries to do that, which got them a lot of slack. And there's, again, this kind of massive just level of tension going on. So that should be kind of a little bit of a background. I hope to get you kind of somewhat aware of what's going on. Hopefully that should help guide a little bit of the research. Again, that's kind of just a background of the overview, kind of an oversimplified version, but I do hope it is successful. If you have questions, do let me know, comment, anything like that, and I'll get back to you, and hopefully we can explain it from there. I will see you later. Good luck.